pleasure to call to order the spring meeting of the TV79 Board of Advisors. We have no public here, so I guess we don't have any public comment. Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of January 29th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have to, we realized we had forgotten to do this, we have to elect officers. Now, there's never been an officer below chair, has there?
No. We've been
Secretary kind of
relying on the kindness of strangers to the secretarial.
Yeah, that's a nice way of always making it the newest member who has to be So, are there any nominations for chair of TV79 for the next year?
I would nominate Mike Wheeler.
I would second it.
I abstain. Thank you very much. We also have to appoint, according to our new bylaws, they were always going to be in there, we never did.
It was never in there.
It was never in there. Appoint the general manager and the program director. The general manager currently is Dave Bieber. The program director is currently Jim Cameron. Do I hear any nominations for general manager?
I would nominate Dave Bieber.
I will second it. All in favor? For program director, I would nominate Jim Cameron.
I would second it.
It's be a 15-minute meeting. We do have some things really to talk
Thank
about. All in favor? So, thank you all. Budget update.
Here's some handouts.
We'll try to coordinate this, so when Jim had his quarterly Board of Selectmen meeting,
Yes.
department heads meeting, he doesn't have to, he can use the same packet that,
So I was in front of the Board of Selectmen this morning, and I thought this would be very efficient. The last page in the bundle I just passed out is the spend year to date from Jennifer in the finance office. And the part that I'm most obviously concerned about is the TV79 camera operators, where we came into the year with a $24,000 budget. That's about $2,000 a year. We've only spent 15 of that, so with 3 months left in the fiscal year, we have $8,700, which means we're well under budget. Although we're on the air, I forgot. I tend to make sure that we spend as much of that as we appropriately should before the fiscal year is out. We still have, under grants, $10,860 in grant money from Area 9 Cable Council, specifically for camera operators, which we have not spent. We spend the town appropriation first because it expires at the end of the fiscal year. The grant money that we receive from Area 9 rolls over year to year. So we've been kind of banking that for the off years where we might have a tight town budget. We would have to dip into that, but we have not had to. And Dave can speak to the capital expense and what's in there so far.
Well, some of the capital expense carries over from some original grants. We spent all our money for 119, and we have some that carry over, and of course I'm trying to keep some of that for meltdown. I mean, occasionally something happens and you need to replace it in a hurry and can't wait for a grant process or a transfer of capital funds. So we have some money that we will carry over and use judiciously. We have also, for example, when we updated room 206, we have kept everything that was working and have stored it. So in case there's a failure in that equipment that is similar as in the auditorium in 213, we can use that. So Jim equated my equipment closet to looking a little bit like B&H photo. But it's all there in case. Hopefully we never have to use it. Plus it's where we store the cameras that go out on portable shoots and the audio equipment and microphones, stuff that could walk if we left it out.
Redundancy is good.
wish we could invest in a drone after. If you haven't seen the drone coverage, although that was produced by someone from Department of Public Works.
some civilian did the shooting for them and gave it to them.
And Cecil just prettied it up.
Sweetened it, yeah.
Sweetened it up.
The ones for the solar?
Yeah.
Solar.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was good.
yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, it really is good. And the budget submission was...
So our budget submission was the same as we had last year on the camera operator side. We're currently burning through about a little over $2,000 a month. You know, with the 24,000, 12 months, 2,000 was what we were expecting. But this is the busy time of year because of the budget cycle.
Like 7 meetings today.
Yeah, a lot of meetings going on. It gets quieter after the budget's approved and certainly over the summertime as well too. Last year, we did not have any capital in a capital budget line item at all. They zeroed us out. This year, we put in a request because we want to wire this room, room 119, to be able to go live on the air, which Dave can talk about. It involves pulling fiber optic cable from here up to the booth to be able to transmit and also be able to control the switcher to put us on or off the air. That we requested, I think it was $2,700, and we got zeroed out again because somebody at one of the budget meetings said, "Oh, the 119 project is done." And fortunately, I had a chance to speak with some friends on the Board of Finance and explain to them that the new cameras and rack were done, but we're proposing something bigger than that. And we'd had a guesstimate from the Public Works Department that it would probably cost about $3,000 to string cable. We have since found it's much more
I think
expensive
he was
than
thinking
that.
about we were going to do Cat 3 too, a different kind of wire.
Well, wherever you pull, it's not the cable that's expensive. So anyhow, the Board of Finance suggested that we go back to the Board of Selectmen and ask them for about $3,000, which will pay part of the cost. Dave can talk about what the bids have been in a moment. But the Board of Selectmen will give us that out of their contingency fees, so it's not being built into the budget. Dave can talk about the bids we've got so far.
Okay, we've gotten 2 bids, one from the folks that do fiber for the town of Darien, which ran above $7,000. We then got one from Northeastern Communications and Electrical, and they gave us 2 bids, one for multi-strand fiber and one for 6-strand fiber. 6-strand is just what we need, and it will give us a little room to expand whatever technology happens or we want to do something else. And that ran just under $6,000. And to put the ends in and make light go to video and vice versa, and audio to video and control, it will run about $2,700. So that would use up that $2,700, and the other we can probably, and I can put it in for a grant at Area 9, that will collapse the operator grant that we could be eligible for at Area 9, which means we would be totally relying on the town at this particular point in what we have in the bank. And why is it so complicated? Well, as Jim said, it isn't from here to there, it's getting from here to there. Basically, we have to go out of this room, up over the fire marshal's office, down into the basement. We have to go along until we get a riser by the stairs. We have to go into the attic, over the auditorium, and then down into the booth. That is figured to take somewhere in the area of 2 to 3 men, 2 to 3 days. It's not so much the material, it's the time, it's the labor, it's the drilling holes where they have to, because some of the conduits are totally full. We can't get an armored cable up there. So that's the reason why it's if we were running string with 2 cans on it, it would still cost us, that amount in labor and time.
Is there anything special that if you take the one who doesn't do town stuff, that they approvals that are needed for?
I don't think so, because of the, we're having mentioned it to Public Works, and Public Works was part of the tour that we've done twice, and we're getting a 3rd person in who's currently doing the town of Westport, but he has been up to his ears and just can't get down here. And I think that it's probably going to come up about the same price. What impressed me of the two was that Northeastern asked a lot of questions, literally measured more, and I kind of thought their estimate was accurate, whereas the other one was a little more dartboard. Oh yeah, it's about $7,000. So at this point, I'm using that as my budget figure, because they'll live by it.
And everything else is up to what you want for the other
Yeah.
rooms that we're doing.
Basically, that'll give us video to the head end. It'll also get us a return so we know we're on air, and it will give us a control thing. And it gives us the ability to expand on that if we decide to do something else down in this area of the building. We won't have to restring that. It has 3 dark fibers.
So we can get to the Mather Center
If we need to go
the
there,
demand.
we're already
demand.
here, and that's an easier run. What happens is the fact that in part of the rebuilding and the rebuilding the fire marshal's office, what used to be part of the IT department was all bricked in. So now you've got to go around it.
And did Darien TV78 go live with the Board of Education meetings? Did they
No.
they haven't?
Not yet, but they have said they will.
But they figured out how to,
They've figured out how to do it through some sort of cloud sharing thing. They're going to bring it to the head end of the high school.
good.
We did try looking at Wi-Fi, and we did try looking at it, and we brought in a microwave. Not going here.
Yeah. Yeah, the Wi-Fi, there was a strong signal out of this room, but you couldn't serve TV, you couldn't serve
It's getting it
Altice.
from the Wi-Fi to
Yeah,
Altice.
yeah, and you couldn't get.
So, yeah, the Boxcaster unit we use to take our signal, which is going to the cable system, and send it off to the internet as well too. We could buy and install one of those over there for $250. Maybe string that Wi-Fi hardwired over there as well too. So that gets us on the web, but getting it from the web to also feed Altice Cablevision is the challenge. So I think that the expense is going to be worth it because this room is increasingly being used for important meetings, planning and zoning, board of finance, etc.
TV79 advisory board.
Must-see TV. And I think it's important to be able to put them on live.
Yeah.
And once we've got the wire, as Dave said, the other place that's increasingly being used is the Mather cafeteria in the Board of Education, the old Board of Education Senior Center down there. So we're about halfway down to there. We get $5,000 this year from Area 9, of which we could take up to $1,500 toward camera operators. And in the past couple of years, we've been doing that. We've been taking the max on camera operators because we haven't really needed a lot of other equipment. Last year, thanks to the Darien Foundation, they paid for all the cameras in room 206. But this year, we're going to take all 5,000 and apply it to this particular project with the other town money on top of it. And as I say, we've got enough money for camera operators for a year if we didn't get a dime from the town.
So since you brought up Area 9, anything of interest, part of the new guidelines were, the old guidelines, we were all on 3-year rotating terms, but the town changed the policy for advisory boards that were all on 1-year terms. But the Area 9 representatives are on 2-year terms. So it was the acceptance that, and they are appointed by the Board of Selectmen, not by this committee. And you two are 2 appointments on the Area 9 Commission. Is there anything of interest? Some of the statistics I've seen is that cord cutting has somewhat slowed.
It has slowed down, according to Altice.
Of the video package,
Yeah.
not on the internet package, because that's the base, but that it slowed down slightly as the alternative bundles get more expensive.
Yes, and recently Altice was quoted as being one of the best companies to work for, which is a bit of a surprise to Jim and I.
So far, Altice has continued the promise that Cablevision had to take the money collected from subscribers and share it with the towns. Our initial concern when they came in 2 years ago now
Yes.
was that they were going to just not distribute the money to town-specific stations like ours. So we were kind of warning the Board of Selectmen that we should be prepared to be self-sufficient, like so many other things that are happening with state funding drying up as well too. But so far they've kept the promise, and they've gone through like at least 2 government affairs people. The one that we've been dealing with recently, who used to come to our meetings, or at least once a year, she's gone now as well too, and I'm not sure how that's going to be replaced. But I'm vice chairman of the Area 9 Cable Council, and along with Hal Levy, who is the chairman, we're trying to warn all the other town educational and government stations that they've got to be prepared for the eventuality that that funding mechanism dries up. And if they're not working with their towns and they're not getting money from their towns, they're going to be high and dry if Altice decides to go to a different funding model.
Well, the bill is still in the Senate, that the FCC's proposed action to change the rules so that the way that 5% is allocated,
Yeah.
Altice would be able to take off the top in-kind contributions. So they can say, well, the studio that we make available, there's a cost of that right now is not included in the 5%.
For public access.
For public access, or the channel that we're giving you, we could give that to other providers who would pay us some money for it. So we're allowed to deduct that from the top of what we pay public access and government access, which could seemingly wipe out those entire budgets if the FCC, if the rule change is approved. Senator Markey in Massachusetts is leading the opposition to it.
Right.
But it's still an active piece of legislation is in this session.
You got an explanation too, didn't you?
Yes, and I got Jamie Stevenson, our first selectwoman, to accept my wording and put her name on the letter as well too. I think that this is why it's important that we keep feeding Cablevision. I think it's important because I think a lot of our viewers are still watching us on cable. They're not watching us on Vimeo, or they're not watching us on YouTube, or looking at stuff on Facebook. Especially older people, they're still there, and they're the ones whose money goes into this pot of money. And I think we need to keep feeding the beast, as I call it. Because having a very good local educational, now very good local Channel 78, as well as Channel 79, is Altice's only point of differentiation from their competitors. You know, if you cut the cable, if you cut the cord to Altice, you're not going to get News 12, you're not going to get TV79, you're not going to get Blue Wave TV. You may find it on other platforms, but this is one of their things that they can say you're not going to see on Frontier, you're not going to see on Uverse. So they're the ones that made us happen in the first place. And I think we need to be, loyal to them until they prove otherwise. That's why I think whatever it is we're doing in terms of technology, we have to make sure that we're still servicing, that audience that's either watching live or watching on tape delay.
With broadband, they still do provide our oxygen.
They do.
Does Frontier, or it used to be just DSL service, as Frontier internet?
Still DSL.
I haven't heard anything that's above it.
Yeah.
They keep throwing the word fiber around, but they don't really say where it is.
Well, I will bet within, I'll rate it, make a note and bring it up at the next April meeting. I'll bet at least one cable operator has thrown in the towel on providing video services and will give subscribers access to all of the different bundles, and they will make their money off broadband until 5G comes, and it's going to be a long time before 5G is out here in concentrated areas, but it's going to be a long time before. Broadband is the equivalent of oxygen for most
The
households.
Frontier, for example, which is the old Uverse, which was AT&T's competitor to Cablevision, they also collect the money under the public educational and government access money from all their subscribers, and they give that money to Area 9 to pass along to the towns that are part of Area 9 as well too. They recognize.
But they don't
criteria.
carry the channels.
They don't carry.
They don't, but they could, but even though they don't, they still have to collect that money. And they see, I think, Area 9 as being a better distribution mechanism than trying to reinvent the wheel themselves. You know, the other Cablevision franchise, the one that's up in the Bridgeport area, we're at the Norwalk franchise, but the Bridgeport area operates under a completely different model for educational and government. I don't know what they do on the educational side, but on the government side, they've hired one production company, Soundview. They give them all the money, and then Soundview goes to the individual towns and says, okay, Orange, we'll take your Board of Finance meeting, at Bridgeport, we'll take your Board of Selectmen meeting, and we'll put them all together in a fruit salad on Channel 79, which is the same across all the towns. So it's not a town-specific model. You know, that might be easier for Altice to just say one check, you take care of it. But on at least the Norwalk franchise, I think we've proven that the town-specific model works. And knock on wood, they're still, playing along with us.
So that leads into the programming update.
Well, the front part of the packet I handed out to you is the report I gave the Board of Selectmen this morning. A couple of things we've added that are new. Thanks to Mike, who's the whiz at Vimeo, we've finally discovered how to add albums to our Vimeo archives, which means that if you go to Vimeo, you can now look at an album of all the meetings from a particular body. So you can go to the Board of Finance album, you can go to the Board of Selectmen album, and you'll see all the meetings there arranged chronologically, as opposed to just wading through every single meeting that we're doing from today until 2 years ago. We have 1,300 videos on Vimeo right now.
But only 2019 are in albums.
Only the 2000.
Only 2009.
This calendar years, you
Yeah, or
mean.
playlists.
Right. Facebook viewership is still strong, short but strong. It gives us a lot of impressions. There's a description in there under equipment of what we were just discussing. For the
Jim and I were
119
talking
project.
last night. Are any of you use Facebook regularly? Have you found the Today in Darien section yet that you can access on Today in Darien? I've got it on mine. When I go in, it's on the 3 lower lines at the bottom. You can click on it, and there's a Today in Darien. See if you can find it. I'm trying. I've reached out to 3 people at Facebook to figure out how they can, because right now they scrape all the local Darien media.
Darien night, Darien time.
So if I go into Facebook and go into the Today in Darien, the top 5 stories are from Darien night about police 2 checks stolen from elderly Darien residents. Darien Times is the next 2 stories. And then it goes to, I don't know what cliffviewpilot.com is, but then there's another story from Darien. And then it goes down to get into more stories and community calendars. We don't have a website that they can scrape. They can't scrape our Vimeo page or our YouTube page. So I got to think through how, whether or not, because we can do from Boxcar, we could feed the Darien website, on where we are on the town website, our page there, if that would constitute.
So they've already confirmed that they don't scrape Vimeo or YouTube?
They haven't confirmed it. They say they scrape the websites. Jim checked with the editors of Darien Night and Darien Times. Did anyone from Facebook ever ask their permission? And they said no, they just scrape our sites. And we don't have a site to scrape.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure.
You can use our Vimeo URL.
In theory, yeah, but it's getting through the different to find who does what algorithm does that.
In the drinking from the fire hose of online news, this trickle is one I'm not most concerned about right now. But yeah, I mean,
It is interesting though, as Facebook, through all of the turmoil that they've had in the last year, the revenue is still up 38%, and there's no alternative for advertisers. So they're
well,
not.
we have discovered, because Mike and I both out of the generosity of our hearts and out of our own pockets, we occasionally will buy a boost for a particular show that we've had up. So I bought a boost this week for the drone video. $7. It's being presented for 1 week to residents of Darien, whether they follow us or not. The idea being, if you don't follow us already, you live in Darien, you look at this and you go, oh wow, this is cool. Maybe you'll hit the like page and we will have drawn you into the web. It took me half an hour to get approved for that boost.
I still have not gotten approved, and I tried to boost, I don't know if it was something around the budget, one of the budget meetings.
Yeah.
And I had been approved, because I told you at one of the last meetings, I'd gone through all the paperwork to make sure that, I wasn't political, everything was approved. I have all green check mark, and I still get rejected, and I send emails, why? And sometimes I get a response, sometimes I don't. And it's, so when he got approved for the drone thing, so we're gonna we're gonna try to boost the Board of Selectmen quarterly meeting today, because that's an important, usually heavily, when the next quarterly meeting is, to see if there's a person in it, because there's no people in the drone.
Right.
Video.
It's just pretty pictures. I mean,
It's just pretty pictures, and
but
so
when you see people talking politics or town issues, somebody at Facebook, the alarm goes off and they'll go, we don't need his money quite that bad.
They have all those new people that watch.
Right.
For that. Is it
Well, I hope they're
always
enjoying our
$7?
programming.
Yeah.
Well,
It starts at like $1 a day.
through the first $2.33, you'd have 500 views.
Yeah.
Off this first $2.33. You were gonna say something?
A lot of their growth now is Instagram, though, too.
Yeah.
So, like, not that that's necessarily our target audience, but I mean, I never thought I'd get off Facebook, and I am now.
Right.
And so it's may not be the most necessary place to put our energy.
The students you teach,
Oh, they're definitely
They're gone.
Yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah.
But
It's
They get off
Instagram
as
for
soon as
them.
their parents got on.
That's right.
But
My daughter accused me of being a stalker when I joined about 6 years ago.
Well, now they
Out
have
on there?
now they have their Finstas too. So they have their Instagram and then their faux profile that they can send to you. So
But network television was declared dead in the late 80s.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long time. So
Anyhow, back to programming. The program guide is now up to 870 mostly opt-in recipients, and we've been averaging about 24%. This week, I think because people got back from vacation, the open rate for the program guide has hit over 30%. Because people look at it not just to see what's on Channel 79, but to see what meetings are coming up and the agendas are there. I think our program guide is better than the town web calendar. A few pages in here showing the last quarter's worth of pick hits on Facebook, the ribbon cutting at the Darien High School cafeteria, which Cecil produced, was like off the charts.
Hang on a second.
Along with the Board of Finance, Operations, Planning Committee, etc. And then the next few bar graphs are from Vimeo. And I have to give credit to Cecil Wade, who's our videographer and producer extraordinaire. He's also very good with Excel. So he gave me these, and I asked him when I looked at the one on page 4, I said, what's linear? He said that's a linear regression chart showing changes in, what's that? And he explained it to me. Anyhow, what it showed, and I was able to say to the Board of Selectmen today, was that viewership over last year is going up, at least looking at Vimeo. And then the final page, which attracted the attention of some of the board members of the Board of Selectmen today, were the top 50 shows in the first quarter. One of the members of the Board of Selectmen said, are we in some sort of a contest against the Board of Finance? What do we have to do to get better viewership? And I said, you make it, we cover it, we can't tell you what to say or what not to do. But, I mean, there's a few surprises in there. The plastic bag stuff scored high. The conduct meeting about the Route 1 bridge update, which is going to be a massive imposition that people still don't know is coming. I don't know how it got that audience. I think it must have been reposted someplace, a couple different places. But overall, you know, the viewership is there, and I think it's just still a hype, but I think it's mostly on Vimeo. Unless it's a very important meeting, it's not live, but we still do a program rotation every Friday of 6 different shows to run over the weekend, so there's always something on the air.
So that brings up one of the things I sent in an email today to think about, I sent links of, did you get a chance to look at them?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Of the Vimeo of the way they currently do it, and hopefully you saw this. So anyway, so as you looked at Vimeo, were you able to find unaided the albums? Dennis, you were?
Yeah.
Carrie, you were?
Good.
I wasn't, but I'm more of a YouTube guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see them. I like the way the YouTube shows all the videos.
Yeah, I'm
That was the
I'm
easy
partial
one.
to search, so on Vimeo I couldn't figure out how to do a localized search on the channel only.
Yeah, it doesn't work. We've
Yeah.
gone back for a year with emails to Vimeo that we can't figure out why in their app you can't find, or if you go online like Dennis did at the last meeting, into a search engine, you can find it in a search engine, but I still haven't been, when I'm in the Vimeo app, and that's part of
There is a search function on Vimeo that looks specifically only at the channel that you're in,
Okay.
but it's near impossible to find. I can't find it. I found it once, and it worked very nicely.
It was a
But I
minute
haven't
and
been able to
15
find it
seconds,
since,
and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
The UI for YouTube though was very smooth. You know, I think part of it is it's a little bit more intuitive for me. It also opened directly into an iOS one, as opposed to if you opened the Vimeo link, it took you into a browser, and then,
Mhm.
so, you know, that made it a little easier with a pad, because, you know, you click on tiles, whereas you still had to kind of click on links with the Vimeo
Yeah,
stuff.
What was your reaction?
On desktop, both of them were equally fast and easy. On my phone, you know, the Vimeo search is pretty hard.
Where you about you, Robert?
Yeah, no, I found the YouTube much easier to use and to search than the video.
So one of the things that we're thinking about is I found a bulk transfer company out of France. I had fascinating conversations with them through email about what it was like living in France last week. But they charge $100 a year, 100 euros a year, and you can bulk transfer 8 events a day. So we're not transferring, copying. They call it transfer, but they're copying. Nothing's leaving Vimeo. They're copying them to YouTube. So it will take until the end of June to get all of the 2019 meetings over to the YouTube link that I provided you. And it would take, not counting how many new meetings there would be, almost to the end of the year to get the whole database over there.
Not that we would do it, but out
Not
of
that-
curiosity, can you pay more to get them to remove
No,
the limit?
That's apparently technically, but that's their limit.
Okay.
But if we did it by the summer, we could then to get our own URL, to be able to, so in theory, we have the live channel now, and then we have this channel that you had the link to. We can get a dedicated URL of Darien TV79 live on YouTube, and then a Darien TV79 on demand on YouTube. But we have to get 100 subscribers. There are 3 criteria. We have to get 100 subscribers. We have to show that we put up our own artwork, and something around the video where you got us on the channel that we're doing this experiment in. You were able to get the new artwork up from pictures from the town.
Yep.
But then in July, we can decide whether or not we want to have this as a backup or from a workflow. That Vimeo could always stay there as a storage for historically, you know, for the meetings. But, you know, July meeting, we can talk about, should we, when people come back from summer vacation and start over and they start holding meetings again, right now we just primarily provide a URL anyway. Vimeo has gotten a lot of brand recognition through TV79, but it's ultimately the URL that they go to. But it would be hard if, with a dedicated email to the 800 people on the mailing list, to send out just that email to say, please subscribe to these channels, so we can get up to 100 to get
Yeah.
a dedicated URL, which would be more in mind. People could, oh yeah, I gotta go to Darien Live, youtube.darienlive.com. This is a more intuitive, and Vimeo doesn't offer that, to do,
They do a live feed, but it's.
no, they do
expensive.
a customized URL,
Right.
customized URL.
But I think, we've spent 2.5 years teaching people about Vimeo. We need to continue that.
Teaching people about on-demand.
Vimeo. Not on demand, for archiving purpose. I mean, that kind of, not watching and streaming. But they finally figured that out. I don't want to change that now. I don't think we need to change. I'd rather add YouTube, give it a chance, give it 2 years and see if where the audience grows.
So if you don't
If
give
we-
the URL to YouTube, no one would ever find it. I mean, for the on-demand
I
stuff.
put the URLs in the program guide. There are embedded links in the program guide every week to Vimeo, to YouTube.
Well,
They're
YouTube,
there.
there would be two different.
Okay, I'm just saying, we've got a system going, it's working. I don't want to abandon it to move to another platform at all.
So the search, the better search isn't a factor.
That's not a factor. I don't think people are, I get one call a month from somebody who's looking for a meeting, they can't find it. I think people go in and they know chronologically, they're looking for, last week's meeting, and they know that the newest meeting's at the top, and they scroll down until they find what they're looking for. Archivally, if we don't continue subscribing to Vimeo, all of those meetings just evaporate.
Well, that wouldn't suggest that I'm not continuing.
From a workflow point of view, I can now upload to Vimeo, upload to Facebook, and I believe we can simultaneously upload to a YouTube channel once we get that archival system done with your friends from Friends. But I'm happy to add, we've added Facebook, I'm happy to add YouTube. I don't want to start cutting stuff back that people are finally understanding how it works and they appreciate it. There's no reason to. I think if people can't find TV79 content through all the channels that we operate on, they're not interested. You can only lead this horse to water. You can't force its head down and say, drink, damn it. And I think that as viewership increases and ebbs and flows, as there are controversies in town, whether it's, the Light Review Board or the plastic bag ban, I mean, the annual budget cycle as well, viewership is up. I think it's because there's stuff that people are interested in. They're concerned about what's going on, as we're going to talk about in a moment, in state government. But it's not for lack of platforms that viewers aren't finding us.
I'm passing out now these, which takes us to the next subject. I think I already gave you a copy, Jim? Okay, so the next item on the agenda on the guidelines got approved at the Board of Selectmen meeting. But one of the things that Jim and I were talking about was the interest in, we've never traditionally covered a state representative or a state senator when they hold meetings. And
That's not true. We have in the past.
well, tradition, when Bob Duff did the Darien Men's Club.
We've also covered Terry Wood at the library in the past.
Okay, but one of the things that came up, and I don't know how many got the email when Bob Duff held a town meeting, the emails came from the Darien Town Committee. So one of that Jim has been religious about is to make sure that Darien, and the guidelines say that Darien and TV79 is not used for political purposes. So I wanted to take you through the recent spate of meetings that our state representative and state senators have had. The first one was.
Which we did not cover.
None of which we covered. So this was Terry Wood at the library on March 14th. That I saw the communication because I'm on her email list. The next one was the meeting with the Darien State Senators that they had at the Darien Town Library. And Jim checked with the Darien Town Library, and their guidelines don't allow their rooms to be rented for I don't want
campaigning,
or political
fundraising,
or political purposes.
we find it.
I have the word. So this was a letter, but then the next third and fourth page is the email that the Darien Democrats sent out, where you look at the email and my original thought was this was sponsored by, but in reality, looking at the newspaper article or finding articles online, it was really being promoted by, it says at the bottom, this paid for by the Darien Democratic Town Committee, but I think that's the constant contact email that they were paying for, and not, so they were just using this as a promotion. And then Matt Blumenthal in the snowstorm, the morning of the snowstorm, and I checked with Seth Morton, and he heard about it through an email from Matt that registered for emails through Matt Blumenthal's office. But we had never heard of, neither of us had heard about this meeting happening at all. And then the last one was Terry Wood and Jamie Stevenson have been holding coffees and conversation on Saturday. But if you go to the last line, this is organized by the Republican Town Committee, so this would not be something that we would cover. But I wanted to get your all's points of view on thoughts of covering when state senators and state representatives are giving town meetings within within Darien.
Let me speak first to why I didn't cover these. When the legislative session began, there were a number of contentious issues that came up regarding the consolidation of school districts, various funding issues, etc. And from my unaffiliated perspective, I'm neither Democrat or Republican, I thought they were completely politicized and the battle lines were clearly drawn. And I was concerned that these would turn into political pep rallies as opposed to reports to constituents. And they were rather contentious. I mean, I think the library has archived the Duff meeting. Is that where you saw it?
No, I actually, he did a town hall on Facebook last week.
Okay, but you saw one from the Darien Library where he was...
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
The only one I saw was he did a live one on Facebook on Thursday or Friday.
So, to the extent that I was under the impression, as Mike was, that some of these were actually being promoted or sponsored by the Darien Democratic Town Committee, that was, in what I saw, in violation of our guidelines, which even before they were revised said, political campaigning, Darien Government Access Television will not be used for political campaigning by individuals or organizations seeking public office or legislation. Neither will the service be used for the solicitation of funds for political purposes. And then it gets into a description of the 2-month quiet period before an election is being held. So that's why I didn't cover them. I can tell you what the experience has been in the past. Whenever I covered a Democrat, there would be a torrent of complaints from Republicans. When I would put a Republican on the air, there would be a slew of complaints by Democrats. Why are you putting these people on the air? Well, I just said, he is the state senator, or she is the commissioner of housing, and they were being sponsored in a neutral space, like Senior Men's Association. I'm not opposed to having a candidate come and report to their constituents.
An incumbent.
An incumbent, yes, not a candidate, an elected official. But if you look at the town of Darien, there are 2 state representatives and there are 2 state senators, the way that the lines are drawn in town. I want you to know up front, 3 of them are Democrats. 1 of them is a Republican. And if we start carrying them, we're not going to be opening up the Pandora's box of equal time or any such thing as that. I think we should either cover them all or we should cover none of them.
Points of view?
Yeah, my point of view is we shouldn't commit to equal, especially if it's lopsided.
Equal time went away with the Reagan administration.
Right, but, yeah, I wouldn't commit to that, but you would like to see proportional to the representation, right? 3 to 1.
The bylaws specifically say campaigning.
Yes.
So, I mean, one of the problems, right, if you want a vibrant democracy, you want informed people who can watch these because, you don't want to brave the snow to go see Matt Blumenthal, right? But at the same time, campaign is a really nasty word there because, you could argue that all of these were, shaking the stick and trying to build up some energy for either opposing or approving. So, I think one of the problems is that the bylaws campaign word, one could argue that anytime someone's politically advocating on behalf of their position in this area, you could get stanked for that. So,
Well, the library, I reached out to the library this week because they have very specific guidelines as well too. They have to be holier than thou, the way we're supposed to be, purer than Caesar's wife, or some such thing. Anyhow, I got an email from Lois Kalka at the library, who's responsible for booking rooms. And she said, the only reference to political meetings in our meeting room policy states, meeting rooms may not be used for business solicitations, fundraising, or political campaigning. We do not allow the RTC or DTC public events to be held here, since that would be essentially presenting one political agenda over another or campaigning. We would allow the communities or the committees to meet here for internal committee business, such as nominating discussions. The library does, however, allow elected officials to hold town hall meetings or legislative updates for their constituents, since they are already an elected official and would be representing the public at large and presenting information that's relevant to everyone. At no time during that presentation, however, would the official be allowed to, quote, campaign for re-election in any way.
Carrie, any thoughts?
Well, it's tricky. I mean, I think people would really like to see these things, but I mean, who's gonna be the deciding, who's gonna decide, what guidelines?
Within 60 days of the election, it's easy. We don't do it unless there's, like Jamie brought up when we talked about our guidelines, if we were in 60 days of an election in the town of Darien and Jamie was up for re-election, but there was a hurricane or there was an emergency meeting for the public at town hall, and she would be there in her role as first selectman in a news event as opposed to a political gathering.
So you're saying, are you advocating that we would make an exception to the 60-day rule?
No, I think he's saying that the 60-day rule is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
And I said to Jamie, when she raised this issue, what if it was, I remember Yvonne Klein, when she was first selectwoman, there was a lot of flooding in town, and she literally held a town hall meeting. It wasn't before an election, but she held a meeting in the auditorium where all the people who were flooded out came and yelled. It wasn't a Board of Selectmen meeting, but it was a public meeting. And I said, I think that our guidelines would allow that, because the next line after the prohibition against coverage for 6 months, or 2 months I should say, is, this will not preclude their participation in public meetings or special forums. And I would characterize that as a special forum. The guideline is designed to stop somebody from sucking up airtime and doing, you know, a dog and pony show about, let's spend 3 hours reviewing all the accomplishments of my last term. I mean, that's not gonna make air. Now, if we're gonna make this sort of decision for these, you know, town hall meetings, these reports to constituents, I want to cover them all, or we cover none. And if we're going to cover them all, I just want you to be prepared for the, you know, the impending blowback along political lines. I don't think Bob Duff is going to come back to Darien and hold another one of these, given the reception he had at the last one. He doesn't like, he's told the Board of Selectmen he doesn't want to come and be yelled at, even by the Board of Selectmen, let alone by constituents. He'd rather stay in his love circle in Norwalk. What if Terry decides to hold one of these every week?
How many of these are there? Because you're right, I mean, part of it is the legislative calendar, so of course, you know, now's the time to either say, hey, let's stop this, or let's have it happen. But it is, you know, also arguably a budgetary question. How many of these would you guess would be filmed in a given year?
As many as they want to hold, and I think that depends on what the issues are as well, too.
Terry has probably, I'm guessing, because I've been to a couple of them where she does an update.
3 a year?
Yeah, 3 or 4 a
Yeah.
year at the library. She'll, after the session, she does a post-session wrap-up of what happened in the session. So I would say 4 or 5. Duff, this was the first one that I can remember since the Darien Men's Club.
Yeah.
Well, what about something like, you know, they go to the Sugar Bowl and they decide to do coffee and conversation, right? Like,
Good question. That's one of the areas I wanted to bring up of the forum of, because Matt Blumenthal, my understanding was his original venue was going to be the Sugar Bowl, and he was told that, no, there are a lot of people that are angry about about the school stuff, and you better have a bigger forum, and they moved it to the Darien Library.
Well, I think he was being new. He didn't know, somebody told him the Sugar Bowl is a great place to go and meet constituents. Just like up in New Canaan, there's a restaurant that they hang out in, do the same sort of thing. I think, you know, we can't limit where people choose to hold these events. Interestingly, they don't tend to hold them in the town hall auditorium. I'm not sure why. But I think if they pass muster with the library, and the library is a nice community room space, I mean, that's a logical place to do it, but I don't want to start going down to the Sugar Bowl.
and that would be one of the
Cafe
issues.
Nero or Jake's Place, simply because candidates decided to have a town hall meeting and I'm going to buy ice cream for everybody. Let's go to Gopher, I'll buy ice cream for everybody, and we can talk with my constituents. That doesn't sound like it's the kind of thing that we should be covering.
And Dennis, we have done, every time Jim Himes comes to town hall, he was at the Mather Center, but he goes to the Sugar Bowl quarterly to meet with the Darien Times editorial board, which is a public meeting on Thursday, but we've never discussed I don't know, have you ever contemplated covering one of those?
No.
Public, so.
But then that
we
increases
covered
the headache,
cliches.
right? Like, well, you know, I did a Sugar Bowl thing, and why wasn't I there, you know?
Yeah, you've never considered doing one of the Sugar Bowl, but we have done when he and Blumenthal did the thing, was it the RAC 4, I can't remember what the incident was,
That was in the community room in the library.
Right.
And it was an overflow crowd, and they were piping the audio out to people standing out in the terraced courtyard out there. That was just before there was discussion of invading Syria as well, too. And he chose Darien of all places to, you know, be able to host that.
If one of these airs at, I'm sorry to interrupt, one of these airs at the library, you just take their recording of it?
No, we tend to shoot it
You shoot
ourselves.
yourself, so now we're talking, you know.
Well,
That's probably an easier place to shoot.
It is, and it's not ideal from an audio and production point of view either. That's a whole other, kind of issue. But and we've got the budget, we should do it. I think if people want to see these things, we will find the budget to be able to shoot them. The library, I don't know if the library has built-in video camera equipment now.
It's one point with
It's
zoom.
one camera that points kind of like halfway between the screen and the podium, but you can't see anybody in the audience, and the audio is terrible. Our audio is not much better in that room. So what I'm going to suggest is, it's going to sound very arbitrary, is as program director and as chairman of the TV79 advisory board and as general manager, I think we will have to make a decision on a case-by-case basis as these comes along. I mean, my preference is to cover them all, but if they start turning into a weekly event, and I feel in any sense that people are abusing that access to the airwaves, I think we'll have to have a, more fulsome discussion, and maybe have a, an emergency meeting of the advisory board.
Do you like the guidelines that the library has?
I do.
I thought that was well written.
Yeah.
I
If there's
do.
some way to,
So that's why I think if they're at the library, that they've already passed muster with, one set of guidelines, and that's just easy for us to say, yeah, if it's good enough for the library, it's good enough for us.
And that's, and they've all tended to be at the library.
They have.
Everyone that we're talking about has
Right.
been at the library.
Right.
So I wanted to get all of your opinions and feedback before we proceeded, and now probably none of them will have another meeting for the next year, although I think Terry would, as his tradition of it. One of the interesting things is, but we're not a news gathering organization, but if you go in and just do a search on Facebook on Bob Duff and bring up and watch there was his very first, so congratulations to him doing it by himself from his office in his home. And just as he goes on the air, the dog starts barking, the phone's ringing off the hook. You can hear that it's school vacation week. He came home early because it's school vacation week, and you hear the kids out there. And he's
Turns
trying
out
to,
it's not so easy.
and he's doing it by himself, and he's trying to read the questions that are coming up on the screen and answering it.
It's like that BBC live shot with the kid
The
coming in.
kid,
Yeah.
the one that comes in and grabs the kid.
Well, the guy's good.
Yeah, right.
It was, but it's obviously he can choose which questions that he sees coming up on the
Yeah.
screen to answer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, anyone who does those doesn't have to take anyone who arbitrarily raises their hand and answers the questions. He can, or she can, just didn't see that question go by on the screen.
There are some towns that literally have, the first selectman show every week. And we found in our old guidelines and expunged in the new improved version, there was wording to allow elected officials to do that. And we just decided that was not what we were about.
no fireside chats.
No fireside chats.
But
Unless it's in the conduction of regular business, If Jamie wants to have a fireside chat, or if John Cini wants to explain what's going on with planning and zoning in the context of a meeting, bring it on, happy to have it. I think C-SPAN doesn't do, they do interviews, but they don't do fireside chats. They don't have, it's the Newt Gingrich show, welcome to our program, Okay, friends, no. There are plenty of other venues and channels for people to do that sort of stuff.
it's interesting watching the library. The Darien Library has their own channel, but I saw through the Alliance of Community Media postings, or one of their feeds, that Westport has an RFP out for a full-time video person. They just handle video for the Westport Public Library.
So for their library.
Just a library, a full-time position for a video person in their library. So is there any new business? Oh, I'm watching at 8:31, so we get off on time. Any new business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second it.
We are adjourned.